Oh yeah, this is what sparked this idea. A tradition of violence, the history of deputy gangs in Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. A 15-part investigative series by Cerise Castle. So, what I like to do exposés. I really do like it. I usually sometimes make them a little nicer and colorful ways, but this topic is one that I hate. Those fucking cop people. So, first I'm going to start out with man. Man is a feminist and an artist. Let me take you about man. A lot of these are meant to be like art pieces for exposés for art journalism. I like to do art. And then here's some of my feminist magazine art. So, essentially, in my theory of exposés, a lot of times you're supposed to, I noticed that you had art and stuff, okay? Alright, so, in an effort not to bias myself, I'm not gonna like read it first. I'm gonna explain what my investigation has been showing, okay? So just a little bit about myself. Essentially, Cop Gang has made massive mistakes with me for many years, and I decided to do massive investigative journalism on that for it. So I'm a genius. I'm religious, but not really. You know, I have a moral ethic, and I grew up in a pretty conservative Christian church, but I don't do anything bad, ever. And I still believe in Jesus and God. But it's not really a defining thing in my life. Essentially, I believe in like, kind of the type of government is essentially more of a socially aware kind of government, okay? Idea, the Democrat idea, basically. And then I'm a union member, and I'm a strong like union supporter of workers. And that I just follow laws. That's why I don't have blackmails. This gang stalking stuff has happened to me before. I got a DUI out of it. I use extreme logic. I'm a genius that uses extreme forms of logic. It's very difficult to get me to deviate from logic. And it's kind of what defines my psyche. I also am a genius at full spectrum world of science. I'm also a feminist, and I put that in there because, I live up here in Tri-Cities, Washington, which is right down the road from Bitch Magazine. And those feisty beesies are somewhat, they do the smarter version. But essentially I'm building, I have a development that I've worked on a piece of paper, basically, on a feminist magazine that deals with this type of shit. Okay? This is why I know so much about it, because it was essentially meant to because they're all misogynists. I fucking hate them. It wouldn't even have mattered. Just them alone, being misogynists. I hate those people. And then I'll be a feminist just because I hate those people. That's a little bit about me. Which is like a riot girl. It's my ex-wife. She's a feisty chick that doesn't usually, she likes to do she would be like, hi, I'm a reporter, and here I am at the Gay Pride Parade. That's what kind of journalism she likes to do. She likes to do feminist journalism. And then the feistiness stuff would be like she would want to do like an article on a musician or something, like most feminist journalists. She doesn't do like hard nut crunching, like she doesn't necessarily do that. One of the things about being a feminist that's being her bitch is that she doesn't like doing that stuff much, and I know why. And so I went and found all the information that it would take for her to essentially write some decent like articles about this type of stuff. Think about it as me. See, her dumbass divorced me, and that's her fault. I wasn't gonna stop this fucking train. This train's gonna go right up their fucking asses. Think about me as like vice. Okay? And then women's supposed to type the stuff. That was my vision for that. So essentially what you got here is what I call the cop mafia. That's what I was calling it. And it goes a little beyond. You can't really operate a cop gang without having other people be a part of something. It's very difficult to do corruptive stuff like that without having a corruption system that emulates a mafia. So, essentially, I'll tell you what the AA groups, which is one of their little, it's like a part of a whole faction of their, it's kind of like how the gangs have like factions. I don't know. The ANN stuff. It's like that. So, essentially, they'll be like their religious morality will be centered around like going to AA as like a church and then doing satanic S&M in their free time with all the people in AA. And that they're usually suffer from some serious deviations from logic a lot of times. And then they usually are extremely skilled at lying and manipulating. They essentially are a lot of times in S&M, satanic S&M, so to be part of the group. And that then essentially the cop gang, pretty much, a lot of them might seem liberal, but they essentially have to adhere to alt-right Tea Party kind of ideas when it comes to government. Okay, so a lot of them are psychopaths in secret. That's what leads back to the lies and manipulations. They essentially, they will know who the cop mafia or the cop gangs are. They will know. They will. And they don't know shit about science. And they'll all be a part of society. Tea Party. These people will be blatant misogynists. They will. They'll be dumb. They'll be Fox Newsy, like those type of people. They'll go to a Bible church of some sort. Basically. They'll be like, basically, they may not even know it because they're dumb Fox News, but they'll basically be alt-right and pseudo-fascist. They'll essentially be a part of a side church S&M group fund, and it'll be based on a pseudo-communism with forms of promotion of capitalism and stuff. And so they usually suffer from a diametric logic, and they're also sociopathic. Then a lot of times these are the people that collect the blackmails that the cops have in the cop gang. A lot of times they have a direct blackmail extortion leadership over cop gangs sometimes, a lot of the times. And that it's because these cop gangs kind of started out in what was a neo-Nazi based S&M, and that's kind of what gets them into a cop gang. It's molded beyond that nowadays, but a lot of times these people hold a direct extortion over them. Essentially, their cop gang world operates on who has extortion over who, basically. And yeah, they'll be dumb at science. They won't understand anything about science. They'll also be a part of Republican society or something like that. So then the teachers and the principals, basically, and like PTA moms and Mothers Against Drunk Driving. A lot of times they'll be Catholic, or some will go to AA, or they'll be in a Bible Tea Party church most of the time. And that they usually do like some sort of school-based Platonian smart structure. They'll be your basic Reagan economics type of people and your basic Republican Reagan types. And then they'll be kept in the dark about the cop gang because they usually are teachers in schools and the cop gangs are like exploiting children as pedophiles and shit. They'll be extremely neurotic and normal. They'll advocate for an ultimate Republican neurotic normalness world. And then they'll be decently smart about science in like the high school level. Like what the teacher in high school would know about science. Basically. They're in an older society kind of. So then this is like mayors and captains and sheriffs and basically the older people. I call them Bert and Ernie. They'll essentially have somewhat of, they do church, but for political reasons. They don't necessarily, like, basically. And then, if you know anything about this type of people, a lot of times they'll have those mustaches. A lot of times they'll look like they're in a time warp from the 1980s and 90s. And then essentially they'll have somewhat of a Masonic Sesame Street PBS kind of philosophical logic and ethos and pathos. They'll be Reaganites, yeah, they will be. And that, they psychologically suffer from like they'll act pretty decently nice as a cop, but if you piss them off, they'll snap. And that's a psychological issue that they suffer from. And then they'll have a subversive psychoness to them. Essentially, this is what I know, okay? They know about it. They're really paranoid about that stuff. So there won't be much documented evidence. They go to great lengths to distance themselves from cop gang. But they essentially look the other way. And that they know